Good morning and welcome. This is our first official podcast of Raising Excellence, and today I'm joined with Willow and Michael. Welcome, Willow and Michael. How are you guys doing today?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Good, good. So today we're going to be talking about some tips or things that we can share with our listeners about how to deal better with Christmas. And I really liked what Deirdre said before she had to go to her meeting. But what do you guys think? I'll tell the listeners what Deirdre said later.
I feel like the holidays can be overwhelmingly stressful because there's a lot of expectation. And that's where a lot of our dissatisfaction comes from, is not meeting that expectation. So part of what I wanted to discuss was properly managing your own expectations for your own holiday plans that you're going to do.
Nice. Michael?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think expectations are certainly one of the things that make it a difficult time. But I would also add that there's some other things. You know, it is the end of the year, and so for a lot of people and a lot of people's businesses, this is that last opportunity to do things. And then with the scheduling conflict of all the other things that are going on, plus, you know, the financial aspects as well, and the fact that we're trying to buy people gifts, more than likely people are asking for things that are probably on the high side of the budget. And so those all, I think, kind of, turn into more stress than probably most people want to deal with. And then, of course, we've got, I think we're into this technological era where communication is becoming a problem, because we're texting and we're doing all these other things that sometimes lead to a lot of miscommunication.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to show you guys the me. So yesterday I was talking to a client of mine, a marketing client, and I said, "Do you have any advice for us for like how to overcome the challenges of Christmas and holidays?" And what he said was very interesting. I'll show you guys what he said. He said this: "The loneliest place is in a crowd. The toughest feeling is lack of acceptance." And then he told me that what he really meant is the expectations, which is exactly what you guys said. The expectations of others that they put upon us that are maybe even in conflict with who we really are and our core essence, right? Because personally, I don't buy into the commercialization of Christmas. And so I wouldn't buy somebody an expensive present. I would buy somebody a thoughtful present, but maybe not. I don't know. I would rather buy somebody an expensive present on a random day, not at Christmas, right? So
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Well, I think it's when you're meeting with other people and they're, potentially they might get you a gift, and then you've got to think, oh, I should have got them a gift, or should I give them a gift? All these kind of things come into play too.
Yeah.
I actually just went through that with a close friend just the other day. She texted me and she asked me what my husband wanted for Christmas. And I was like, I hadn't thought of it because I hadn't thought about getting anybody else any presents, so I didn't think that anyone would get me anything. And I had a momentary conflict where I was like, if I can't buy something, I should make something. And I thought about all these like art projects that I could do. Like, can I paint them a picture? Can I write something? Can I, do something special? And it kept me from enjoying the fact that, holy crap, I have a friend who just wants to buy me a Christmas present because they're wanting to buy. And that was a joyous occasion where I was like, now there's an expectation that takes away from me actually being present and enjoying this awesome friend that has trying to do something nice to me. They're nice for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of the time we can't really just enjoy life as it comes. Good things come to us, and then we're all worried about all the strings that are attached to that good thing, And if we just let go of other people's expectations, maybe we would just enjoy it, right?
And even our own, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go
I
ahead.
would say even our own expectations. One that I really wanted to hit on for me around the holidays is dressing up. I'm in this phase of my life where dressing up it's a challenge for me. It's not what I want to do. It's a total conflict in my mind where I'm just like, I just want to wear a nice fluffy jacket and relax. And I've kind of gotten to the habit of going to parties in my pajamas because I would still like to go, but I don't want to get dressed up. And I don't have to be dressed up and be uncomfortable and make myself miserable just so that I can fulfill the expectation of what I'm supposed to be as a human being on this time when I'm supposed to be having fun.
That's such a good tip. That is a great tip. Because it breaks, I mean, if somebody wants to dress up, I think they should. If somebody wants to do the 9 levels of makeup that takes 3 hours and the hair and the nails and the whole, yeah, they should absolutely do that. But if you're feeling pressured by society, going to a party in your pajamas, I think it's a great statement. It's also an anti-commercialization statement. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's ways that you can manage your expectations right off by simply just announcing what your intentions are and what your outlook is in regard to the holidays in general or this party or whatever, is by verbalizing to other people what to expect of you. And if you just kind of set those expectations and kind of create that mantra in your own mind about how you're going to approach this particular event or party in a way that you can essentially communicate to yourself that this is my mantra. I'm going to enjoy myself. I don't have any gifts for anybody, or however, whatever the message is. But essentially just go with that and allow them to adjust. You'll have a much better time, and more than likely people will then adjust.
But how do you stop yourself from feeling selfish? Like, for example, if I'm showing up at a party, like especially one of my mom's parties, and I don't wear a dress, I mean, now my mom is a lot more laid back, but when she was younger, there was a specific expectations. You had to have this, like, before I was 20, I had to have a white shirt, a dark skirt, nice shoes that were freshly polished. You know what I mean? There were all these rules. And how can you be okay with yourself and still go to the party in your pajamas?
Well, I think it depends on the person that's, like if they're the person responsible for the party, if they want it, the party a certain way, then that's something that you need to communicate and ask them what exactly are their expectations as well, because there's some people that really love that formal kind of circumstance where that's part of their expectation. That's part of what makes it enjoyable for them, is to do that in that particular way. But it's one of those things where you need to get that out in the open, define it, and maybe even communicate that to the other party goers as well, because if they're not very good at communicating what it is what their exact intentions are, you can help them by listening to them and then communicating it to everybody else so that everybody else is on the same page as well.
So basically what you're saying is, don't squish yourself to meet other people's expectations, but don't squish other people so that they meet yours either. Like if you really want to go to the party in your pajamas, but the host is really adamant about everybody being dressed up, just don't go to the party. Don't make somebody uncomfortable just because you want to be self-righteous. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Being able to understand, being able to communicate, I think is certainly one of those things that we absolutely have to do. But understanding what the boundaries are, because if they really think a formal thing is important to them, and you decided that you want to go in your pajamas, and you tell them, hey, this is the way it is, then it's really up to them. So then they can say, yeah, come on with your pajamas. I don't really care that much, especially when it comes to you, you know. I would rather spend time. And
Nice.
so then, there's that opportunity to actually, have some fun with it.
But you would have to
And
really be brave and communicate. Sorry, Willow, go ahead.
no, no, that actually is a perfect segue. You do have to be brave. You have to. It's not going to do you any good to go to a party in your pajamas if you're going to sit there the entire time wondering how many people are upset that you wore your pajamas. You kind of have to be okay with saying, I'm here in my pajamas. I know that may be not what you want, but I'm here. Is this okay? And if they're not, you have to be willing to accept that that's what that is and accept things for what they are presented to you.
Well, maybe call them ahead of time. Don't show up in your pajamas at a fancy party.
Yeah, but even if you call them, you're saying, this is what I want to do, and I'm okay with that. And if you're not okay with that, I'm okay with you not being okay with that.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's something that's really missing from our society. If you're not okay with this, it's okay to have a different opinion than me. That is something that I think our society is gradually losing. People think that there's a specific way of doing things, and if you don't have this belief system, you're not important. You don't exist.
I think communication is one of those areas that it is becoming more difficult. Even though we have more means of communicating, we can call them on the phone instantly, we can text them, we can message them, we can do all this other stuff. But there's so many of those little fine lines that people miss, that maybe they inferred that they were doing this or doing that. If there is a question, you should just be upfront and say, what is it? I was and just take that extra effort to make to hit on what it is that may be important, or maybe something that's unsaid that needs to be said. So I guess there's a little bit of having a little bit of courage to bring up a topic that may be a little bit touchy, but try and do it in a fun way, maybe.
Yep. Yeah, it's important to be respectful of other people's needs. If they have a need for a fancy party with everybody being dressed fancy, I think that is absolutely acceptable. Well, I mean, it's not up to me to say if it's acceptable or not. It's their choice, right?
Well, I mean, everybody has their own expectations about Christmas. So, like, for example, there's some people that they love making crafts and they love making things for other people and stuff like that. Like myself, I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those people that I don't want any gifts. I don't want to give gifts. I don't even want to deal with any of those expectations. So I try and make that very clear to people that, hey, I'm just not into this gift giving thing, and I can explain that further if they want. But, for other people, they're really into that kind of stuff. And so how do you match those kind of people together, and do it in a way that, that everybody can have an enjoyable time. So, like, in that particular case, maybe it's like a Secret Santa kind of thing where everybody brings a gift and then we just kind of put them together and we draw numbers or whatever. And in that way, maybe both sides can have some, some joy and bring some enjoyment out of it.
Absolutely. Sam, did you want to say something? You touched your microphone.
I was thinking of a thought, but I wasn't exactly sure how to tie it in. I guess I'll just maybe topic change.
Go for it.
I was gonna say I feel like around the holidays, especially for and I use the term dysfunctional family as in like you're probably an average normal family. We just have communication issues, that are not the best. There's a lot of boundary testing I had just read this a peaceful parenting article about a mother who noticed her 3-year-old was shrinking away, from a grandfather, her grandfather, and the mother was like, if you don't want to do this, if you don't want him playing with you, you can tell him, and that's okay. And it made the grandfather upset, and he was like, I can do what I want, when I want, I'm not hurting anyone. He was very upset because it was implied that he wasn't treating his 3-year-old granddaughter with respect. And there's a lot of boundary pushing. It's like, oh, because it's the holidays, you should be comfortable, and you should want to dress up, and you should want to abide by all the expectations of your family so that you can recreate this awesome family experience, without acknowledging that that may be not the most healthy thing for you right now. That maybe the healthy thing would be saying, I am exhausted, I don't have time, I don't want to spend my time putting on makeup, putting on these clothes. I want to show up and be with my family in my pajamas, and if that's not enough, then we'll find it another time.
Nice. I think this is a great segue to the secret that I've been holding on to for like the last 15 minutes, which is what Deirdre said.
What did she say?
She said to ask 3 questions. 1, what do you value about the holidays? What are your favorite things about the holidays? So why don't we go one at a time? So why don't I ask Sam, Willow, what do you value about the holidays? What are your favorite parts?
I value the perspective that people have. It's all, I imagine it's like they put on their Christmas glasses or their holiday glasses, and they're like, I see everyone as human beings who are full of love and life, and even the ones who are grouchy, they're just hurting. I love that connected, where it's like, I'm willing to kind of overlook what makes me angry about you to feel calm and centered. It shows up in the thoughtful gifts. Even if someone just buys you a random keychain that they thought someone thought of you. That's awesome. Like, that's the gift to me, is it doesn't matter what's in the box. The fact that you brought me something because you wanted me to know that you thought of me, that's awesome. That's what I like. I like the simplicity of people think of me, and they want to be around. It's a connected thing.
Like that meme I sent you the other day that was specifically tailored to you.
Yes, I loved it. It made my night.
Nice. Awesome. I saw it. I had to do it. So what are the parts, Willow, that you resent about Christmas? Like, what are the things that you're not really keen on?
I think because that aspect is, I associate it, that connectedness, associate it with Christmas and holiday time. I feel maybe a bunch of other people do as well, and they're seeking that so much that they push boundaries, that they end up isolating everyone else and making everyone else not or feel bad so that they can attempt to recreate the thing that they're trying to get. And a lot of times they don't even get it, because if you want to throw a party and have it be like your stereotypical, every Christmas we do the same thing, and then no one wants to do it this year, and you end up at a party by yourself because no one wanted to come, you're not feeling connected, and they're definitely not feeling connected to you. So it seems like there's such a need to feel connected to other people that we really miss out on how you actually get that, how you truly gain a group of people who care about you and you would want to celebrate the holidays with.
Nice. That sounds lovely. And how can you focus on the things that bring you joy this Christmas as opposed to the things that cause you strife?
I don't really have a clear-cut answer for that. I am starting to realize that a lot of that lies in listening to myself and having to ask stop and take a breath, truly analyze what I'm feeling, accept that that's what I'm feeling, and sorry, lost my train of thought just a little bit. You have to truly listen to yourself, because if you think that you're happy, and in reality you're just ignoring a part of you that is yelling at you saying, we're not happy, this isn't fun, you're pretending, you're not going to get anywhere, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. What about Michael? Michael, the same 3 questions. Number 1, what do you value?
Well, I would definitely say, valuing the connections that are made and the opportunity to make connections and see, the family on a regular basis. I'm in a situation where I live in Mexico and I'm not going back to the United States. So, I'm disconnected from my family. So to some degree, that's kind of me. I'm not that, I guess I, to some degree, feel disconnected from my family in a way, but I still really love my family and love the people in it. And so this time of year, I try and make an effort to connect with with all those people that I love and have a history with, and catch up with them to some degree. And to me, that's really the greatest gift is time, because that's really the greatest resource that every person has, and we all have the same amount to some degree, is time. And so just taking the time to get to know what's going on in their lives, and what's important to them, what are they focusing on, all those kind of things. I think if you do, I think one of the things that if we focus on other people and what are their needs and trying to find out about where they're at, it relegates a lot of the problems that we have with the particular situation. And so if we just focus on the other people, focus on what their needs are and stuff like that, and understand that that's the time to enjoy that, I think we end up much better off in that regard.
So what about the thing that you resent about the season?
Yeah, well, I got a bunch of those too. I mean, when I was a kid, our family situation got rather difficult, and so there was a lot of hardships and so forth, and difficulties and misunderstandings and all kinds of stuff like that made the holidays extremely difficult, and so I feel like the commercialization, certainly the expectations and the expectations that society puts on these events, that things are going to be wonderful, and that you're going to be able to get the perfect gift or something like that for somebody else. If that doesn't take place, if the look on their face isn't what you thought it was supposed to be when you gave them the gift or something like that, all those kind of things, I don't like those things. And I think those things, by creating those kind of expectations, by creating expectations for other people that something wonderful is going to happen when it's not necessarily the case, it's something that you can't guarantee. Trying to put yourself or create that kind of a bar is really just setting yourself up for a bad time. And so certainly all that kind of stuff are things that I don't like.
You're reminding me of this Christmas video I just saw yesterday. I might have to share it on our Facebook and Twitter pages just so that people know what I'm talking about. But it was a pretty hilarious example of overdoing Christmas. Very, very ironic or like sarcastic, right? But it was funny. So how can you focus on the most important things? Did you already answer that? I don't think so.
Yeah, well, I think, certainly communicating, number one. and understanding what your expectations are and what are the things that you want out of this particular period of time, identifying those in your own mind and then communicating those to other people, and then being able to communicate with other people what are their expectations as well. I think that's the best way that you can focus on the thing. And then, of course, if you're going to decide on what is going to be fun for you, and make sure that's a part of your focus or I like to think of like mantras, so like if I say, I'm going to have a good time and I'm going to see the people and talk to people that I love and respect or something like that. If that's the mantra that I have, then when something comes up, somebody has an argument or something, I step back, I take a breath, and I think about my mantra.
Nice.
And that's how I get
keep
back
yourself on track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times I think that's another thing that like when you're set in your ways and you're confident about where you're at, other people can leverage that as well. So like you can either like let the situation get out of control where like somebody that's like upset or something like that can just like totally destroy the entire event, or you can like collect yourself and like say, hey, I'm having fun, I'm gonna have fun, and essentially like lead everybody else to the fun as well. So it is kind of a situation where when somebody else takes control and it's kind of going off the cliff, we can steer it back in by just doing the right things.
That's a very important thing you just touched on, the whole
Mm-hmm.
leadership, because so many people allow everybody else to create their life for them, and then they're sitting there complaining about what's become of their life, but they never take the reins and lead the horse where they want to lead it.
Absolutely.
Right, Willow?
Yeah, it reminds me of like being at a family reunion, and if it were a child who's throwing a tantrum in the middle of the whatever you're doing, no one really stops. No one, the whole party doesn't end because this child is throwing a tantrum and they're upset, but it gets addressed. Someone goes and addresses the child, but when it's an adult, it's like it ruins everything. It's like, why can't you just treat this adult like you would a child who's having a tantrum? You don't have to disrespect them. You can calmly go and be like, hey, I noticed that you're really upset right now. Do you want to talk about it? Like, it's expecting other people to hold your mood or your vibe and maintain it.
Yeah, absolutely. I read this thing about ancient Slavic people, and I don't know if it's true because who knows about ancient Slavic people, but apparently what they did is when two people argued at a gathering or in a family, they would separate them and they would tie them up and put them to bed until they calmed down. And when they were calm enough not to cause any more trouble, they would untie them and let them back out into society. And I thought that was hilarious. Like, if we were to be able to do that now with the adults that are throwing a fit. Like, okay, time out. You get to be tied up. Bring me the rope, Steve. Come on. Let's put Susie to bed.
I think there was a Christmas or a New Year's ritual. I don't remember where it is. It's actually a post that circles around on Facebook quite often. It's a village who, when someone does something wrong, they don't shame them. What they do is they put them in the middle of a circle. They have the entire village stand around them and shout at them all of the amazing, yeah. Like, and it makes them, like, that's how you reach people. You acknowledge, hey, you are this awesome person, and I know that you're not a bad person, so I want to help you. It surprises me how we can apply that knowledge to children, but when an adult is having the same kind of problems, it's like, it's unacceptable. Like, you're not allowed to have these problems as an adult. I'm like, no, I still have petty moments. Mm-hmm. We all do.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things with loved ones. We've definitely got to go the extra mile. and let them know that that they're loved, and that even though they're acting like a fool maybe at a particular time, that we can remind them, and we can remind everybody else as well, because it is one of those things where they go, oh God, here she goes, or here he goes, that kind of thing. We can set that on another track by essentially reminding everybody of the positives that this person brings to the table, or the positives that they've had in the past. And that maybe maybe they're going through a relationship problem, or maybe they're having a hard time at work, or, maybe there's a lot of different things that could be going wrong that have put them in this situation, and that they're more than just that, and so those are one of those situations where, kind of like that traumatic situation can be like, oh God, do you remember the Christmas of 2012 when such and such, exploded or something? Well, we could change that whole story by essentially reminding everybody that, they are a person, they can have problems, but there's value, there's valuable things about this person, and there's wonderful memories about this person that everybody should remember, or take that opportunity to remember, and give them the opportunity to do what Sam was talking about, give them that Ubuntu, give them that positive thing where everybody comes together and talks about the positives. And that might be the thing that totally changes their whole life, because, like, even if it's one of those where every Christmas they have that problem, this could be the Christmas that changes everything for them, and gives them that positive feedback that makes them feel better about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally
think
agree. Go ahead.
Me too. I think I was just thinking that a lot of people are so caught up in trying to get that good feeling that they forget where it comes from. And that good feeling, that connected, it comes from the fact that, you're sitting there on Christmas Eve or whatever day it is, and you look at this person that maybe 10 minutes ago was screaming in your face because they were upset, and you realize all the stuff you've gone through with them, all the little things that they've done to change and grow. And that's, if we don't have those moments where you're willing to accept that someone's having a blow up and treat it like it's okay, you're never going to get to the point where you feel connected and open with someone.
At the same time, though, there has to be a space for healthy boundaries. If someone is having a blow up and then having a blow up the next day and having a blow up the next day, there has to be a little bit of distance put between you and that person until they figure out their stuff. Because a lot of the time, and especially in our society, because we're permitted to, I guess is the word. I'm not sure if that's the right phrase, but we're not taught to effectively manage our emotions, and I'm certainly at fault for that myself. I'm no Buddhist monk, trust me. But when somebody is having a hard time with like some challenge in their life, there has to be a place where we say, okay, you know what, maybe figure it out and take some time out, because you don't need to have a blow up at me for this issue. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. You can't control other people. You can control yourself and your path in life. So go for a walk or take time out, right?
Yeah.
So I was going to answer the questions, maybe. I'm not sure how we're doing for time, but I was going to answer the questions a little bit or quickly for myself. It's funny because when Christmas, my birthday is very close to Christmas. My birthday is tomorrow. And a lot of the time,
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Happy
you
birthday!
Can say it tomorrow. We have another show tomorrow, you guys. You just leave that.
We'll say it again.
But because it's so close to Christmas, right? It's as a child when I was the only child in the family for the first 6 or 7 years of my life, 5 or 6 years of my life, and so the Christmases were very magical. All my aunts and uncles focused on me. They gave me presents. It was like a big deal. Everybody made sure that they gave me separate presents for my birthday and for Christmas. because they didn't want the only child in the family to feel slighted that she might not get, I was really spoiled as a very small child. But that all ended by the time I was 8 or 9, right? That was all done. And Christmases were different when I was older. But even as an adult, I always wanted to recreate that Christmas where I'm the focus of the attention, and all the aunts and uncles are coming over because of me, and I am the star, and they're all giving me presents. There's very sort of, but you can't recreate the past, and that Christmas will never come again. What can I do today to make myself feel better about today? Not that I feel bad, but how can I celebrate myself? What was important for me as a 4-year-old to have that family. I like people celebrating me. I like people paying attention to me. I like people telling me how much they love me. Okay, well, let's recreate that. First of all, I love me. I can celebrate me. I bought myself a lovely pair of shoes. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed going out and saying, you know what? I'm going to buy myself this lovely expensive pair of shoes. It's probably not what most people expect for expensive pair of shoes, but it was a native Indian mukluk, like a winter shoe that's waterproof, and it's made of, they're really cute. Anyway, so I celebrate myself in a way that doesn't put any expectations on other people. It doesn't create this sort of, if you don't meet my expectations, I'm going to be upset. If you don't get me this particular I want this particular present, and if you don't get it for me, all the presents that I'm expecting this year are from me. All the celebration that I'm expecting this year is from me. And if other people don't want to celebrate me, well, first of all, they shouldn't ask me what I want. But second of all, it's not a big deal. Like, whatever. If nothing else happens, I'm cool with my shoes. I'm cool with my walk in the park. I'm cool with the things that I'm doing. So I think just redirecting the focus onto yourself, and it might sound selfish, but I don't think it's selfish. I think it's self-responsible. Does that make sense? I think it's more selfish to put expectations upon others.
I actually have a different definition for selfish. Selfish isn't bad to me, but being self-centered is. Because being selfish is taking care of yourself and treating yourself like you're the one who needs the value. And being self-centered means you're the only person who gets that. So I don't think it's bad to be selfish.
Mike?
I kind of feel both ways. I think, I definitely think that there's some virtue in selfishness, and you definitely need to be able to love yourself first, and care about yourself first. Because if you don't, you're probably going to have trouble caring about other people. So being able to identify what it is about yourself that that you care about and is important to you is certainly something that you need to identify, and then it's something that you need to communicate too. So that's. But like I said, self-centered is. When everything is about you, whatever somebody else does, and then you have some kind of interpretation about how that is about you, maybe could be completely off the charts as far as what that other person is doing and how it relates to you. Like if, for example, you go to the party and you're in your pajamas, and the other person says, "Oh, you're completely insulting me." Well, that's not you, that's them.
It could happen, though.
Yeah, it can happen, but that's their interpretation of your actions. And if that was something that you agreed to do, or something that wasn't in the agreement whatsoever, that's their interpretation. But there's another opportunity. But I want to get on to your rest of your question, your answers to your question.
I thought I answered them all already in that one giant statement about nothing.
Well, let's talk about the other, because there was the thing you liked about the holidays, but what about the things that you dislike about the holidays?
Well, no, the thing that I resent about the holiday, I guess that was the question, what you resent. But the thing that I don't like about the holiday is that expectation of recreating that magical Christmas. And some people, once they have children, they try to do that for their children. Oh, I'm going to make this magical Christmas from my childhood. But unfortunately, you'll never recreate the past, so you might as well create the future however you want to create, whatever pleases you in the future. But holding on to this idea of something in the past that has to be brought to today is, I think, a folly. And the second thing I dislike about Christmas is commercialization. I already mentioned that earlier. So,
yeah. Then, as far as focusing, what's your keys to focusing on the things that matter?
Yeah, well, I think that it's most important to empower others, shine a light on their possibilities. At this time of the year, so many people are lonely, resentful, angry, overwhelmed, pressured. There are so many expectations of them. How can you embrace other people and maybe just give them, it doesn't have to be a long conversation, and it doesn't even have to be a big deal. It could just be like, hey, I see you, I like you, hugs. Just sending a heart on Facebook might actually help somebody in a difficult moment.
Yeah, I think that's an area that, like, if we're proactive, we can kind of see when somebody is probably not having a good time, and maybe taking the extra time to find out, like, what's going on, or what's the situation. Is it they just lost their job, or is their relationship going through a hard time, or are they having a hard time with money or something like that? Any of those kind of things that we can kind of pre-diagnose that in maybe someone that might be having a hard time is a way that maybe we can facilitate them having a better time,
right?
Where they otherwise might cause trouble.
Yeah, and I think that if we notice somebody having a hard time, it behooves us to be a shining light in their life. Like, it's the right thing to do to reach out and say hello or whatever. That doesn't mean that you're taking that person's problems upon your shoulders, and that doesn't mean that you're solving their problems necessarily, and it doesn't even mean that you're going to drive up to their house and fulfill their children's expectations. But what it does mean is that you share with them your care. The eighth principle, the care principle. Because that's what makes the world go round, not money, believe it or not.
I've had this mantra that I've been repeating to myself lately. It says, caring about someone else's problems or caring about someone else doesn't make them your responsibility. Like,
that's true.
I can care when my friend comes and tells me that she's having a horrible fight with her boyfriend. He said some really awful things. It's not my job to go over there and tell him how he's wrong. It's not my job to give her a place to stay so that she can, it's my job to be there and listen. And if she asks for help, see what options I have. But it does not require me to take on her as a responsibility, which is something I struggle with a lot. I try to manage my expectations by managing I manage my own behavior to manage the reactions that I'm going to get from other people. And it can leave me feeling drained because I'm dealing with everybody else's reactions versus just being there.
Sometimes what happens when we take over excessive responsibility for other people's experience is, at the very core root of it, it might be that you're not willing to look at the issues that are plaguing you or that are challenging you, but you're refocusing on other people's issues in order to distract yourself from the stuff that's inside that's uncomfortable.
Or even just to try and stop it. Because I just had this conversation with Kurt. I realized that I would get upset when he was upset because that was triggering to me. It was like, well, if you were upset with me, then I must have done something wrong. And it wasn't until I finally realized that I am just trying to avoid feeling that bad feeling, like there's nothing I can do to stop someone else from yelling or having a reaction. I can't make other people better, and somewhere along the line, I learned that that was somehow my responsibility, and I'm trying to relearn that it is not my responsibility to manage other people's experience.
Right.
It's hard.
But you're doing so well, because you're, even just before we got on this call, you said something about your husband having a hard time overcoming the death of your family dog, and you're giving him the space and the understanding to take the time to heal himself.
Yeah. And a lot of times that conflicts, because I'm also trying to heal. I have CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I forget sometimes that he's dealing with me all the time. And bless his heart, he tries so hard. But I will get irritated because I will have a moment where I'm like, why don't you understand how this affects me? And I'm like, well, I haven't explained it correctly. When I do explain it, we don't have a problem. He understands.
Yeah. Michael?
I don't really have any comment there. I think that was beautiful.
You guys are beautiful. Well, we've been talking for 45 minutes or so. Should we wrap it up until tomorrow? We're going to have more tips on overcoming Christmas challenges tomorrow. Does anybody? I was going
to ask if we had any comments during the that we wanted to address
today. We had 5 people watching us on YouTube at one point, but they did not leave any comments.
That's all right.
We might still get comments after, because it's, the show airs at one point, but then people can still watch after.
Mm-hmm.
So, yay.
I'll have some more tips for Christmas tomorrow.
Yeah, we will have some more tips for Christmas tomorrow. We have a whole list of tips for Christmas tomorrow.
I had something I was going to say this today, but I'm going to leave that for tomorrow.
That's a good song.
So,
and if you can make it into a meme, maybe we can even flash that on the screen. That would be like way over the top.
Yeah, well, maybe we should do some kind of teaser of some sort for tomorrow. Discuss what extra intricate detail of Christmas or the holidays scenario that maybe people would be interested in talking about that we haven't addressed today. I don't know. Has anybody got anything that they can think of?
Well,
I thought about.
Go ahead.
I thought about maybe pick out certain scenarios that are kind of typical to happen, and like we do in Autonomy, kind of role play of like, I'm going to be the crazy uncle who has strange political views, and I'm going to have a conversation with you, just to kind of see how you can maybe play that off as a funny, or just get out of the conversation, just tips on how to handle these, because once you're in the situation, it's hard to remember all of the stuff that you just spent the last week looking into.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, I've got one. How about when a relative or someone important says they're very disappointed?
I hate those words. I'm very triggered right now.
For tomorrow, if anybody wants, they can leave us comments today. And if you don't make it, if it's like past tomorrow or whatever, you can still leave us comments. We'll try to find them and address them in a future episode. The episodes are 3 times a week, so I'm sure that your comments will be addressed at some point. But do leave us a message or leave us a post on our website or on our Facebook page or Twitter, or we're also on YouTube. And yeah, take some time to tell us what you'd like to hear about the holidays. And with that, I'm going to close this session off, and everybody have a good day.